that they attempted to essentially lump in all of those people with the Capitol rioters. I've been saying this since the day it happened. It was pretty obvious that the left-wing and media agenda here was to lump everybody in together with the people who committed actual criminal and evil acts on January 6th. Drama ensued on the Senate floor on Saturday morning when senators voted to hear from witnesses. So here's the reality here. Democrats blew this one. The reason that they blew this one is because they recognized a simple reality. The longer this trial dragged out, the more Americans were going to ask a very easy question. Why are we doing this? At the very beginning, there's a fair bit of support for them. And then as they drag on, the polls start to turn against the party that's doing the impeachment. That is particularly true when the person they are attempting to impeach and convict has been out of office for months, because Democrats did not want to call witnesses. They wanted to get this thing done fast. If, however, the idea here is that you have to punish a president who's no longer in office because we can't let a future president think he can get away with this sort of stuff, well, then you wouldn't have had the snap impeachment, would you? You would have had a full-scale investigation. The House would have done its work. It would have taken months. They would have deposed probably hundreds of witnesses. They would have had to talk to everybody immediately around Trump about his activities that day and immediately before and after. They didn't do any of that. So what that meant is that you ended up with the Democrats basically catching as catch can, which suggests that, again, their strategy here was not really to get a conviction. Their strategy here was almost entirely about painting one side of the political aisle as complicit in January 6th.
I really want to start with the impeachment. We were talking about the game and the calculations behind the scenes on both the Republicans and the Democrats. Can't really figure out the end game here for the Democrats, other than smearing and categorizing people.
A federal lawsuit lodged against President Trump alleges the former president incited the deadly insurrection at the Capitol in January. The suit was filed by Mississippi Congressman Benny Thompson under a Reconstruction-era law. It's known as the Ku Klux Klan Act and comes days after Mr. Trump was acquitted in a Senate impeachment trial. More lawsuits are expected. Mr. Trump's lawyers deny that he incited the riot.
We do begin with breaking news this hour. A sitting member of Congress is now suing former President Trump over his alleged role in last month's insurrection. House Homeland Security Committee Chairman Benny Thompson has filed a federal lawsuit accusing Trump, as well as his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, of conspiring to prevent Congress from discharging its duties in certifying the 2020 election results, which, of course, took place on January 6th, the day of the insurrection.
As a result, Congressman Thompson is seeking an unspecified amount of money, monetary compensation, and he's seeking it directly from former President Trump. Let's begin this hour with our CNN Justice correspondent, Jessica Schneider. Jessica, it's really interesting. The question is, will it prove successful for him? Can you explain what he's basing his argument on?
Yeah, the chance of success is what's in question here, Poppy, because this is really a novel and unprecedented lawsuits in many respects. This is a top Democrat suing the former president, along with Rudy Giuliani, accusing both of them of conspiring with far-right groups to incite the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol.
The actual impeachment charge, which centered around incitement. Incitement is very difficult to prove. Suggesting that Trump, quote-unquote, incited the riot when he said to peacefully and patriotically march down to the Capitol to show displeasure, that is not a particularly convincing argument, because, again, incitement is a pretty high bar. And suggesting that it was incitement to insurrection is a double high bar, because, again, you would have to show, number one, that it was incitement, and number two, that Trump actually wanted an insurrection, not just people to go and do something criminal. He wanted an insurrection to overthrow the United States government, which, again, there's very little evidence of. So that was problem number one.
So this is a civil case, I believe, which does have a lower standard of evidence than a criminal case, does it not? I mean, do you expect this to be the first of many in this category? After all, I mean, you have the family members of, say, for instance, Officer Brian Sicknick, you know, people who lost not just people who lost their lives, right? Life and limb.
Right. And so I would not have predicted that a member of Congress would have been the first person to file a civil suit, because you have the obvious civil suits that could be brought by Officer Brian Sicknick's family. Frankly, anyone who was there who was injured, or, you know, frankly, the city of the District of Columbia could even have a civil suit. That would be a bit of a stretch for resources they needed to expend in response to the president's behavior. But this is a member of Congress suing on behalf of his duties and the Congress's duties being interrupted by the president conspiring. That's the term used in the lawsuit, conspiring with Proud Boys and so on.
Elliot, Jim smartly brought up McConnell's comments on the floor on Saturday after his vote to acquit the president. If anyone missed them, here's what he said.
We have a criminal justice system in this country. We have civil litigation. And former presidents are not immune from being accountable by either one.
Politically, it's significant to hear McConnell say it, although you should watch his actions.